Good morning, everyone. Well, it's morning here anyway. Chris from Stamping. Thanks for joining me today. Today I have some cards to make with you using the gorgeously made stamps and gorgeously made dies. Mainly featuring the dies today, but I will be using one of the stamps. So this is going to be 3 cards, and it's part of my series of online classes. So if you place an order with me, you can receive the card kits to make the cards that I'm going to be making today, and then you can come back and watch the this live when you've got your card kit, so you can sit and copy what I've been doing. Alright, so I'm going to turn the camera over and let's start doing some stamping. Okay, here we go. So before we do, if you're in Australia and you haven't got one of the new mini catalogues, make sure you reach out to me. This one has got some beautiful stuff in it. As you can see, gorgeous Christmas things. Definitely worth having a look at that one. So just let me know if you'd like one of those and you're in Australia. I don't have a lot from it yet. A few bits and pieces because as a demonstrator I can order those things from the catalogue earlier. But as always, it's a matter of balancing the budget, isn't it? Okay, so the gorgeously made dies, really I love these. These are probably one of my favorites out of the annual catalogue, and I've just really enjoyed creating with these. So that's what we're going to be using today. And if you place an order and you receive the card kits, all the dies, all the elements are going to be pre-cut. So everything will be die cut. You don't need to have the gorgeously made dies. Any stamping you would need to do, but everything else is provided. Alright, so my first card, I have used some very vanilla this time. So I've got a standard size card base here in very vanilla. If you're in Australia, that's a 21 by 14.5 is what I do, and then it's scored at 10.5. And if you're outside of, if you're not using metric, it's a, my imperial measurements are not great, so I apologize for that, but it's half a piece of your standard cardstock and then folded in half. And then I've got a piece of copper clay cardstock, and then another piece of very vanilla. And I've got some die cuts in pumpkin pie, Cajun craze, and copper clay as well. And this one is from the Nested Essentials dies, so that one we'll do a little later. Okay. So the stamp I'm using is from the gorgeously made stamp set, and it's just kind of some random words in there. So just with some copper clay ink. Now I'm going to stamp that off so that it's not quite as dark. So I'm stamping it off once on the scrap paper and then stamping on my cardstock, re-inking, and then I'm stamping off again. Right, stamp twice. And just kind of randomly adding some colour to the bottom corner. And I just closed up the ink pad. Before I did that, I should just stamp. I'm going to stamp on the left hand side of my die cut shape here. Alright, so we're now just popping these together using whatever adhesive you prefer, if you like tear and tape or snail. Pop those. So just lining that up, centering it on the other layer like so, and then adding that. Alright, so I put adhesive on the back of this one rather than on the front of my card base, simply because it means that I don't have to think about whether I've gone outside this edge. So again, centering that on the card base. Now I'm going to just pop a little bit of adhesive onto the back of the leaves here. Actually, before I do, I'm just going to cut this long end off those ones. Okay, so I'm popping the pumpkin pie one down first. It only needs a few little dobs of glue. And the Cajun Craze. And then layering over the top, if I can get it, layering over the top some of the copper clay coloured cardstock leaves. And then I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back of this one so it pops up a little bit, but I'm putting them on, so I stamped to the left and I'm going to pop them on the left hand side as well. You can see my dimensionals have got colour on the back of them, so I do colour that backing with my Stampin' Blends so that it's really easy to see when the backings are off. Okay, so that one, for example, the backing is already off, so you don't have to then pop your finger on it to try and work out which one is and isn't, has the backing off it or doesn't. So okay, now I'm actually going to pop this over to the side this way, to the right. And then I'm going to cut that one right along the edge of the card. So got a little bit of dimensional there that's just sticking out. There we go. And maybe some in-colour dots in copper clay just to finish it off. No, that is, there we go, that one's coming off. No. Bit of a smudge there of some sort, so we'll pop that one over it. And a medium one as well. And maybe a larger one over to the side here. So there's card number 1. It's using some lovely autumn colours, even though it's nearly spring here in Australia, but I love my autumn colours, so that's, you know, those are, to me, those are beautiful colours. I love those colours together. Okay, so that's the first card. The 3 cards I'm sharing with you today are all very different styles. The next one I'm going to make is quite modern in its look. So I'm using a black and white with some nice pop of colour. Alright, so I've got a black card base that I'm just going to fold. And again, I've die cut the leaf in black. And then I have a piece of white that is going to go over my black, like so. Now I've taken the larger of the Nested Essentials dies in this shape, and I've cut from a heavier piece of cardstock. This was the backing from some designer series paper, and I've just die cut that out, and I'm going to layer that over my white like so, and that's about okay. Now I'm going to take some of our masking paper. As you can see, this one's been well used. I'm just going to mask off an area. That's not very straight, so okay. I'm back with my blending brushes this week because I love my blending brushes. I think they're amazing. So I've got some Berry Burst ink and just taking some excess off because it's really it's got a piece on it, something. Okay. So I'm using the heavier cardstock as a mask to then sponge inside. That's probably enough. I want nice bright colours for this one. Alright, so that was very burst. So now I'm going to move this, just carefully pulling that off, and I'm going to move the masking paper. I'm going to layer it over what I've just sponged, and then popping another one up the top. I don't think that's straight either. For the middle section, I'm using some Azure Afternoon. It's beautiful blue, it's gorgeous. So when you're using the blending brushes, making sure that you're holding, putting some pressure onto the head of the brush so that that doesn't put pressure on this weak point here. So just holding that here, keeping some pressure on the blending brush. And as you can see, I'm just taking the excess off either here or on my mask. Okay, and then I'm just going to move, I'm going to move the masking paper up to mask over that edge. So that was Azure Afternoon. And I've got some lemon lime twist for the top. So I think my piece of masking tape has been well used. So it's starting to lose its stickiness, but as you can see, it has been well used. You can use it over and over again. Okay. So now when I remove the mask, you can see we have a nice bright cheerful background. Alright, so this is really easy to put together, obviously, once that's done, although I might stamp first. Let's see. I'm going to use some black memento ink, Popping some adhesive on the back. And onto our black card base. And then I'm going to, again, just a few drops on the back of this leaf, die cut leaf. And I think I will add a couple of these. These are the classic matte dots. I'm just going to add a couple of the black. And there's the second card for today. Nice and bright, quite modern. And I obviously would put a piece of white on the inside with perhaps another of these die cuts inside. Okay, so that's the second card. A nice easy one to make. And the third card that I'm making today is a little more complex. There's a few extra elements to that one. I'm using a white card base for this one. And I'm going to sponge again. I like my blending brushes and my sponging. And I've got some boho blue. Such a beautiful colour. I'm just going to create a really soft, subtle colour in the background. Just making circles here. So most of my elements will be fairly centered here, so I'm just going to bring some of the colour out. It's quite random. I like to just kind of put some colour in random places. Okay, that'll do. I've got another of the Nested Essentials die cut pieces. I'm going to use this time, this is one of the lovely happy birthday sentiments from Go To Greetings, and I'm stamping in Pretty Peacock. So just inking up the happy birthday. That's all the stamping on this one. Now I have a piece of vellum, just the plain vellum, and also the 2-inch circle punch. So the 2-inch circle punch is one of the online exclusives, so it's not in any of the catalogues. You can only get it, you can only see these online. Punched one of those. So when you're using vellum, you can see adhesive through. So if you put some glue dots or anything like that, you'll see them behind. So I'm still going to use glue, but I'm only putting it on one side. And just adding it there. So then I've got some of the leaves die cut. I've got this one is again in boho blue, this one in pretty peacock, and then I've got two in granny apple green, just to make it kind of pop a little bit. Needed brightening up a little bit. So I'm going to put the pretty peacock at the back. Kind of centered, I think. Oh, sticking to my fingers. Yeah. Got glue on my fingers. That's alright, that's going to be behind some of the others, so hopefully that sticks. And then I'm putting the granny apple green over that. I think that one I will just cut a little bit of excess off. And then I'm going to pop this one. This is the boho blue. I'm putting that over the top. And lastly, our sentiment panel, and again I'm using some of the dimensionals on the back. I'm using the mini dimensionals mainly because I've run out of larger ones, so for now just using these little ones. Those on the back, removing the backing. And then I'm going to hopefully center that and again I think that just needs some boho blue. These are some of the in color dots. That's got the boho blue, and I'm going to pop a couple of those. Maybe one on the vellum, and a couple more And there's my completed card. Okay, so today we had the autumn coloured one, and then the nice modern looking one, the bright colours, and this one. So I hope you've enjoyed that today. Thank you for joining me, and I'll be back next Tuesday with something different. I will post a photo of the cards up on my Facebook page a bit later. But for now, thanks for joining me and happy stamping.